He was blessed with the water dragon god sealed inside him and awakened his powers years later to fight the god of all dragons. For the longest time, the island group of Ayaka has been home to both humans and spiritual beings. While most spirits are weak and harmless, some of them have godlike power, and because of their presence, the island is always brimming with natural energy called the Lei energy. Humans can master the Lei energy to fight against the evil spirits, and Yukito's father, Makoto, is the greatest Lei master of his time. However, one day a powerful spiritual being living inside the volcano suddenly goes berserk, causing the volcano to explode. All the people on the islands have to evacuate, but Makoto stays back to fight the Great Spirit, sacrificing his life to protect his son Yukito, so that he can fulfill his destiny and become the strongest Lei master one day. 11 years later, Yukito is an emotionally detached loner who has lived in a foster home in the city for the past decade. On the day after his graduation ceremony in the mainland, a nutjob named Sagawa Jingi, one of Makoto's students, comes to his school to pick him up, but Yukito avoids him as best as he can. Unwilling to give up, Jingi simply packs him in a magical bag and takes him to the second island of Ayaka. He reminds the perplexed Yukito that he lived here until the age of 5, but Yukito barely remembers his childhood. Soon, they are greeted by Momoko, the landlady of Yanagi's family home, and Sanji, the mayor of the Ayakashima city and also Yukito's legal guardian. Momoko drives everyone to Yukito's childhood home, where he sees a picture of his dad, who he doesn't even recognize. Momoko tells him that his father Makoto was a man with incredible supernatural powers, and everyone believes that Yukito has inherited his dad's amazing talents. Yukito has no idea about any of this, and he asks why the hell he was suddenly stuffed in a magical travel bag and yanked to this island after all these years of being abandoned in foster care, and the mayor replies that it was because of his father's will. In the will, Makoto had mentioned that if he died, then the young Yukito will be sent to the mainland, but he would be called back when he grows up. Soon Jingi shows him his room, but suddenly a soap bubble floats inside through his window. Jingi tells him that this is a harmless spirit called Mitama, and Yukito will find these all over the island. Then Jinji asks why Yukito acts like an emo brat and doesn't get close to people around him. Yukito answers that when he was a kid, he and the other kids from the foster home went on a riverside picnic, but a kid there started being mean to him. This made Yukito mad, and soon water started swirling around him, and before he could understand, the river had attacked the kid. It happened again several times after that, so Yukito started keeping his distance from the people. After ending his sob story, when Yukito turns around, he sees a bored Jingi playing video games on his phone, so he leaves the home telling Momoko that he's going out to cool his head. Yukito tries to calm his shit down, but suddenly a Mitama drop, which was right behind him, falls into the river and turns into a creepy monster. Before the monster can possess Yanagi's brain, Jingi uses his magic and rescues him. He tells Yukito that the harmless Mitama can turn into an Ayamatami once it gets attracted to the gloomy aura of the people around it. Suddenly, the monster appears before them, but Jingi is ready with his chance, and with a huge burst of magical energy, he destroys the Ayamatami. But before he can finish bragging about himself, the monster reassembles its body and appears behind Jingi. This time, Jingi throws Yukito inside the monster's water belly. This makes Yukito super mad, and soon his anger turns into a magical power which bursts the belly of the Ayamatami. And amazed, Jingi realizes that Yukito has a brute force and soon uses his own magic to seal the monster. Jingi tells a dumbfounded Yukito that he is scared of his own powers, and to avoid doing some crazy shit with them, he must learn to control them. Jingi offers to become his master, and suddenly Yukito sees in him a brother-like figure who saved him 10 years ago when the volcano erupted on Ayaka. The next day, Jingi wakes up with a brutal hangover, looking like he's been run over by a truck. He stumbles outside and sees Yanagi, who's deep in focus, trying to control his energy. Jingi tells him to focus harder and feel his Lei energy, but Yukito gives him a side eye because he knows no shit about any energy at all. So Jingi tells him that Lei energy is a vital power that flows deep in the earth, and it sends massive waves beneath Ayaka Island. Lei masters like them draw on that energy to keep things under control. Soon Jinji asks Yukito to show him the spell he taught him the other day, but Yukito just ends up making a fool of himself by just managing to splash water on his own face. So Jinji demonstrates his spell, and soon he creates a water figure like him and brags about it to Yanagi. Then he leaves, and Yukito realizes that Jangi's personality might reek of booze, but he is certainly very strong. After some time, Yukito finds himself in Kasen Shrine, where two lowly grunts named Chataro and Yako are fighting with each other about who will fight the current era Minimus. Jangi snatches the job request from them, saying that he will train Yukito with it. Later, Jingi tells Yukito that Yako and Chataro are his age and he can be friends with them. But Yanagi, who has never made any friends, asks if it's okay for them to talk to someone who doesn't know how to control his powers. Jingi replies that they both are lay masters too, so they wouldn't be bothered by him. Then Jingi tells him that Kaisen Shrine handles all the Matami-related incidents on the island, and the head priest of that shrine, Karui Haruaki, is his senior. The job request Jingi snatched from the two before is about a Matami that has recently appeared near the canal, and if a Matami gets corrupted, they become Aramatami, causing trouble on the island. Suddenly, an Aramatami appears from the water, and Jingi asks Yukido to deal with it alone. Saying this, he runs away, and Yukido almost shits his pants because dumb Jingi didn't warn him about the monster. He starts running after Jingi, and soon the monster attacks them, and they fall in the river. After drying their clothes, they hide behind a valley to observe the creature from afar, but soon they start bickering about who will fight the monster. The commotion caused the monster to find them, and Jingi runs away like a chicken again. But the monster starts following him, so Yukido chants his spell, and soon a wave of water hits the monster, causing it to fall on the ground. This gives Jingi a chance to activate his own yin-yang energy, and soon he pokes the monster's eye with his magic and breaks it into pieces. After some time, the monster transforms into a water figure, and Yakuto reminds him that he was near the canal last night, drinking and partying away with his friends, so the Ayamatami must have been born after absorbing the nearby moisture and became a huge monster. Soon the water figure turns into an Ayamatami again, and Yakuto realizes that the monster keeps following Jingi because it was created by him last night. The monster starts attacking Jingi, and before Yukido can activate his spell, Master Kuruma of the Kaisen Shrine chants his spell and destroys the Ayamatami. Kuruma tells Jingi that it's because of his reckless actions and endless drinking that gave birth to the monster. Kuruma picks Jingi up and twirls him around, saying that he has grown so much. Kuruma introduces himself and tells him that he studied directly under his father. Later, Kuruma visits Yukido's home and tells Lady Momoko about Jingi's recent doing and informs them that now he is cleaning the river as a part of his punishment. Then on the dinner table, Kuruma fondly looks at Yukido and tells him that he hasn't changed much. A flustered Yukido compliments him for his beautiful spells, and Kuruma informs him that Aramatami go on violent rampages because they are suffering, so it is the job of the Lee Masters to pacify them, so they can coexist together as neighbors. The next day, Jingi takes Yukido for a ride in a water train that runs over water. Seeing these fascinating railways, Yukido is jumping like a kid, and Jingi tells him that he is exactly like he was 10 years ago when they used to go on a ride together on this train. Jingi tells him that in this place, people travel between islands using this train. Soon they reach the first island, which strangely has a lot of buildings, and Jingi tells him that the first island is way more urban than the second island, and they even have pachinko, parlors, and casinos. Yukido asks if this train also runs on ley mastery, so Jingi tells him that the tracks were laid using the magical power of ley, but the train is diesel-powered and there is only one line. Later, they reach the mayor's home, where the cheerful old mayor asks if Yukido feels strange on these islands since he grew up on the mainland. He asks Yukido to not rush things and get used to living in his own peace in this place. Jingi asks the old man to not worry much and ruin his health, because he is already taking good care of Yukido. Hearing this, the mayor replies that rowdy Jingi taking care of Yukido is his biggest cause of concern. Soon Yukido tells him that he had fun coming to the first island on the marine liner, so the mayor asks Jingi to show Yukido around the first island, which has become a famous tourist spot. But Jingi is not very happy to be Yukido's tour guide because he came to have fun in the casinos and pachinko parlors, but nevertheless he agrees to show Yukido around. Soon they start walking around the island, which has a lot of stalls and so many people. Jingi tells him that these days the first island is a hub for gourmet food and music, but suddenly he disappears. When Yukido looks around, he sees a Jingi fighting with an old man at the barbecue meat stall. When Yukido runs over to see what's up, Jingi complains to him that the old fart is not willing to give him his favorite meat piece. The oldie tries to reason with him, saying that his favorite meat piece is over because a customer already ordered for the last one. But Jingi keeps bickering with him, so Yukido butts in and buys a bunch of skewers to end the argument because he knows Jingi is a thick head. After eating, they start touring again, but Jingi seems to be in a crappy mood. Jingi is sulking because that place sells the best broiled thighs, and he is going to complain to his friend Maki about the mistreatment on the first island. Hearing this, Yukido realizes that Jingi really has a lot of friends all around this place. Suddenly, Yukido gets distracted by a street performer and Jingi disappears again. Yukido tries to find him, but suddenly he sees that the balloon of the street performer has turned into something sinister. Before the confused Joker can touch the balloon, Yukido jumps on him and saves him from the Ayamatami balloon. Soon people start running in fear, and Yukido realizes that without Jingi's help, he would have to take care of the Matami alone. He calms himself, saying that this Ayamatami is smaller than the ones he has seen before, so he can pacify it. He chants his spell, but the Ayamatami goes berserk and throws fire on Yukido. But before it can hit him, a red head manages to shoot the Mitami. Yukito realizes that something seems off about the way this man is trying to pacify the monster. Suddenly, he notices a gun in his hand. The weird red head then looks at him and asks if he is the famous Yukito, and Yukito is surprised that the creepy boy already knows about him. After some time, the red head introduces himself as Ibuki, and Yukito gets reminded that the mayor Momoko told him about Ibuki. Ibuki tells Yukito that he looks like a shrimp and he barely resembles his great master Makoto. He learns that Ibuki had studied under his father 10 years ago, and now he uses special magical bullets to control the Uramatami. After walking for some time, they come in front of a huge building, and Ibuki takes him to an office named Gao's where he works now. As soon as Yukito enters, he comes across a huge luxurious bar, and he unexpectedly sees Jingi, who is dressed as a bartender. An angry Yukito demands where the hell was Jingi all this time, and he casually replies that he came to Go's to complain to Maki, but he left for some work, so he decided to stay here and fill his always empty tummy. Yukito glares at him, saying that it clearly means that Jingi made zero effort to look for him, and because of him, he ran into trouble with an Uramatami on the streets. Soon, Ibuki butts in and offers Yukito a drink, and asks Jingi to make one for him too. Jingi learns from them that an Uramatami appeared in the tourist area, and Ibuki replies that it has been happening lately. Then Yukito curiously asks Ibuki what technique does he uses to pacify the Mitami, because he has noticed that his technique is very different from Jingi and Kurama. He adds that when Kurama used his spell, the Mitami seemed so happy to be restored, but just now when Ibuki used his gun, Yukito couldn't feel the presence of Uramatami anymore. This makes Ibuki a bit frustrated, and he replies that he kills the Mitami and doesn't pacify them. He explains that his master Makoto used to pacify Minimus by purifying them and returning them to the lay energy once again. Jingi and Kurama use the same technique of striking balance to create harmony, but he kills them, so there is no trace of the Mitami left behind. When Yukito asks why he killed them, Ibuki replies that it's because they kill humans, and since there are a lot of tourists on the first island, it is important to neutralize them as soon as possible to ensure their safety. When Yukito argues that Kurama manages to pacify the Mitami and save the people too, Ibuki chuckles bitterly and replies that Kurama only cares about the harmony of lay energy and not the people. He doesn't care about anything except following the teachings of their dead master. Ibuki explains that he never cared about purifying the Uramatami in the first place, because even after changing their forms, these creatures can harm humans, so he will kill each one of them. Yukito angrily stands up and declares that he won't allow Ibuki to do that, and Ibuki replies that he doesn't care about his useless ethos and values. Suddenly, a purple-haired girl named Ibara enters the bar and tells Ibuki that their boss Makita has found the target. When Yukito asks if a new Uramatami has appeared, Ibuki replies that it's the main body of the one they killed before. He explains that typically an Uramatami has a core that looks like an eyeball, but the one they killed before didn't have a pupil or iris. So basically, it was a small part that came off a bigger Uramatami, and the main body is somewhere else. Jingi offers to accompany Ibuki, but he asks him to take Yukito and go home, and before leaving he tells Yukito that if he wishes to know something else, the bar is always open for him. While returning home, Jingi tells Yukito that Ibuki is a part of a security company called Ayaka Security, founded by Ibuki. Officially, they are a security company, but they are actually Uramatami exterminators. Yukito is baffled to hear that Jingi feels that Ibuki is doing a great job because the island has so many outsiders, and that has disrupted the first island's lay energy. He tells Yukito that a barrier was erected around the tourist area a few times a year, but some sneak through it, and thanking Ibuki and his team for their hard work wouldn't hurt anyone. When Jingi notices that Yukito is lost in his thoughts, he tells him that Mitami and Uramatami cannot be measured using human standards. When Yukito asks what Kurama thinks about Ibuki's methods, Jingi replies that he doesn't like them and warns Yukito to never mention Kurama and Ibuki in front of each other, because they both don't get along with each other. Suddenly, Jingi realizes that he forgot to get his money from Ibuki and runs away, leaving Yukito wondering how the hell did he end up with someone so irresponsible like Jingi. While walking towards the marine lines, Yukito hears a commotion again, and he quickly runs towards the area and gets past the guards, saying that he is a lay master too, and he can help them with the Uramatami. Soon he comes face to face with a huge monster with an eye, and just like Ibuki said, this monster is the main body. Yukito gathers his strength and chants the spell, and suddenly a wave of water attacks the monster. Screams and blood-curdling cries emerge from his mouth, but the monster gets ready to attack Yukito again. However, soon a bunch of sharpshooters and snipers start attacking the monster, and Jingi quickly ducks Yukito down the wall, asking why he was trying to act like a Batman alone. The guard tells them to back off, saying that they will handle this their own way. Soon the guard tells Ibuki that they are out of bullets and Jingi asks Ibuki if he will use black magic again. Ibuki tells Yukito that this is how he deals with these monsters, and soon he activates his powerful energy and suddenly his arm turns monstrously big and bulky. Jingi tells Yukito that Ibuki is using his black magic to absorb the monster's energy, and that is against the laws of the lay mastery. Soon the monster jumps in front of Ibuki, but he cruelly smashes its face and pulls out the core from its body. Then he crushes the core to drink its juice, and Yukito almost gags at the sight. The next day, Jingi takes Yukito to the third island, and Yukito realizes that the third one is even less developed than the second island. When Yukito asks if Jingi visits this island often, Jingi denies, saying that he brought him here because he wanted to see Kuruma. This island has got nothing but forests and shrines, so Jingi shows up here only for the festivals. When Jingi tells that only Kuruma and his idiot students use this island on a regular basis, Yukito hesitantly asks if he can become friends with them. Hearing this, Jingi smiles and assures him that he can be friends with them if it works out well. Suddenly, they hear the two idiot students calling them to come inside the shrine. They welcome them to the third island and inform them that their master has instructed them to meet Yukito and Jingi. While walking up the mountain, Fukuwake asks Yukito if he has gotten used to the life on the Ayaka Island, and Yukito replies that he is still bewildered by a lot of things like Mitama and marine liner, but everyone on this island is nice to him. Everyone he meets smiles at him, and even though he hardly knows the place, everyone is very welcoming to him. Soon they reach the Kaisen Shrine, and Yukito can sense that this island feels very different from the first and second. The friends explain that Kaisen Shrine is dedicated to the opposing dragon gods of water and fire. When Yukito inquires about the dragons, they tell him that since ancient times the two dragons have lived on the fourth island, but disasters occurred every time one went on a rampage, so the shrine was built to pacify them. Fukuwake tells him that the story of the dragon is true because a dragon went on a rampage when they were kids, and that caused the volcano to erupt, completely destroying the first island. He also points towards a barren island and tells that the fire dragon went on a rampage on the fourth island, and a crater lake is said to have been left behind after the water dragon pacified it. Hearing the word dragon, Yukito starts getting flashbacks of the past, but suddenly he comes back to the present when he realizes that the trio has left him alone. Soon Jingi starts behaving like a brat again, saying that he is dead tired and he needs a drink to cure his hangover. The boys call him an old fart, but Jingi catches hold of the two friends and asks them to accompany him to drink and watch peach flowers together, but as soon as they start walking, they slip and fall down in the mud. Meanwhile, Kuruma approaches Yukito and welcomes him to the Kaisen Shrine and takes him to see the archives of the shrine. He offers Yukito orange candies and goes on to search for some sweet manju. Then Kuruma asks why did Yukito want to meet him, and Yukito replies that the other day he met Ibuki and he saw him exercise in Aramatami, but he used bullets instead of some magical spell. After listening to Yukito, Kuruma comments that it must have been a horrifying experience for him. When Yukito asks why Ibuki and his methods are different, Kuruma goes on to quiz him about his knowledge of ley energy. After hearing his answers, Kuruma declares that he will take Jingi's position and help Yukito learn more. Then Kuruma takes Yukito to the balcony and points out towards the other three islands. He asks Yukito to focus and feel the large current of ley energy that flows beneath the Ayaka Islands. Soon Yukito starts feeling a strange surge of energy from the historical shrines, forests, and rocks. Then he asks Yukito to try and direct his thoughts deeper to see the mainstream from where ley masters borrow power and use it to weave spells. Soon Yukito is buzzing with excitement and tells Kuruma that he saw a huge current sparkling deep within the earth. Then he looks at a Mitama and explains that these creatures are bubbles produced by that ley energy and can turn into Aramatami if they get corrupted. So as ley masters, their mission is to purify and return them to their original current. When Yukito tells me that Ibuki ate a Mitama, Kuruma replies that consuming an Aramatami means becoming corrupting oneself, so Ibuki is slowly becoming an Aramatami himself. Later, Kuruma asks Jingi about Ibuki's well-being, and Jingi replies that he doesn't look that good. His body is definitely showing harmful effects of eating Aramatami. When Kuruma calls Ibuki a fool who is sacrificing himself, Jingi replies that it's because he doesn't wish to see anyone die again. Then Kuruma asks Jingi to teach Yukito properly so doesn't have to come see him about ley energy and Ibuki. When Jingi replies that he doesn't seem to be cut out to be a teacher, Kuruma disagrees, saying that Yukito silently looks up to Jingi, and somewhere deep within his memories, he is looking out for Jingi, who saved him in the past. Meanwhile, Kuruma's two students take him to a cherry blossom garden and declare that they wish to be friends with him. At first, Yukito is overjoyed to hear this, but suddenly his horrific flashbacks take over his mind and his smile turns into a sad sigh. When the boys ask if he wishes to join their master and train under him, Yukito replies that he is already training under Jingi. The boys huff in response, saying that Jingi is a useless teacher and Yukito shouldn't waste his potential training under him. They take Yukito to their training grounds and tell him that they wish to test his abilities. Soon the nerdy Fukuwake places a seed on the ground and chants his spell, and soon the seed sprouts into a small plant. Soon the other nerd also plants his tree with the help of magic, but his is just barely bigger than Fukuwake. Soon they both start fighting with each other over who has morally energy and who performed better, leaving Yukito to act as the middleman. With much difficulty, Yukito manages to stop the two idiots from ripping each other off. To distract them, Yukito asks the two to explain the spell to him, so he can learn things better. So they both put on a proud facial expression and tell him to focus his light energy, and for better training, Yukito should join their master. They guide Yukito to calm his mind, unleash his body, and direct power into the seed to make it sprout. Yukito can barely understand the instructions, but since Kuruma had already explained to him about the stream of light energy, he goes on to test that on the seed. The two idiots think that an amateur like Yukito will barely be able to make the seed sprout, but to their bewilderment, as soon as Yukito focuses his energy, the seed turns into a plant and suddenly it starts growing into a huge peach tree. The branches spread in all directions with ripe peaches all over the tree, and the roots begin to dig deeper in the ground. The two kids yell at him to control his power, otherwise he will end up ruining their training ground, but Yukito has no control over his huge stream of energy. On the other hand, Jingi is watching the kids play around, jumps down the branch of the tree, and asks them to ask for help from elders whenever needed. Hingi stands behind Yukito and explains to him that for controlling ley energy, he needs to focus on Harmony. He asks him to not use his power if he has no control over it. He asks Yukito to chant the spells along with him, and soon the tree stops growing and returns to its original form. Yukito thanks Jingi for encouraging him and helping him with the spells. Then Yukito apologizes to the two friends for scaring them with his powers. After getting back on their feet, the two erupt in praise for Yukito's amazing ley demonstration and tell him that he is incredibly powerful. When Yukito nervously asks if they are not scared of him, they reply that they are not and they want him to study with them. Yukito is glad that the boys are not scared of him, but he politely declines their offer of studying together because he wants Jingi to be his teacher. Yukito is trying his best to learn the spells by heart, but sometimes he ends up forgetting them. Jingi keeps helping him, and they are practicing to help Yukito control this insane burst of energy. He helps Yukito in learning to control the energy so that it's not free-flowing, and asks Yukito to turn the position of his spell upside down, and then he jumps on it. This will help Yukito to balance the heavy spells and make the best use of his power. However, suddenly an earthquake hits the island, distracting Yukito, and soon Jingi was lying on the floor. Jingi tells him that if he gets distracted by a small earthquake, that means he still needs a lot of training. The next day, during breakfast, another earthquake hits Ayaka Island again. Momoko explains to him that Ayaka is a volcanic island, so it keeps getting hit by earthquakes. When Yukito nervously asks if they are not scared by them, she replies that Ayaka is their home and they have enough first aid kits and helmets to evacuate, so Yukito doesn't have to worry about that. Soon Jinji comes rushing inside and asks Momoko if there was another earthquake just now, and when Momoko agrees, he asks her to give him money for his drinks. When Yukito asks why the hell does he need money when an earthquake strikes, Jingi replies that today he is visiting their master's grave. They both walk to Makoto's grave, and Jingi drives the Matamis away and asks Yukito to help him clean the grave. They pour water over the tombstone, plant some saplings, and burn incense sticks. Yukito asks why they are visiting the grave after the earthquake, and he learns from a bunch of old people that the dragon must be angry last night, so they need to pray to Makoto to protect the island. Soon Jinji asks Yukito to sit beside him and offers him a drink, but he refuses because he is still not past his drinking age. The old man there replies that it's been more than 10 years and they wouldn't have survived the major eruption if Makoto wouldn't have saved them. When Yukito curiously asks what his father did 10 years ago, the old woman scolds Jingi for not telling Yukito about his father. So Jingi gulps his drink and asks Yukito if he's heard about the two dragons of the Ayaka region. Yukito replies that he has heard about fire and water dragons, so Jingi explains to him that the earthquakes here are caused by the fire dragon, which is a major ley energy current that is infused with fire energy. Moreover, the volcanoes beneath the island are more active now because it's gotten too strong, because 15 years ago, the lake on the fourth island dried completely. On top of that, the water dragon also disappeared, and that caused a destruction of balance between fire and water, so unless things turn back to normal again, it's possible that the fourth island will erupt again. It was Master Makoto who performed the ritual of dragon pacifying and suppressed the fire dragon power that was the raging force of nature, and that too all by himself. The island has been peaceful for more than a decade because of Makoto's rituals. The old woman tells Yukito that the island owes a lot to his dead father and he is like a living god for them. Hearing this, Yukito pays his respects to his father, saying that he doesn't really know him much, but he is sure that he was a great person. After some time, Yukito and Jinni notice the purple-hair Ebara from Ayaka security, but she leaves without greeting them back. So Jingi takes Yukito to another grave and tells him that today is also the anniversary of Ebara's parents' death, and suddenly Yukito notices a bunch of keys with a cute keychain on the ground beside the grave. In the afternoon, they both visit the first island because Yukito wants to return the keychain back to Ebara. Soon they meet the Kuruma students Yako and Chitaro again, and Jingi messes up their names again. Yukito asks why they are on the first island, and they both reply that this morning's earthquake disturbed the ley energy of the islands, so their master Kuruma instructed them to check the towns. Yako and Chitaro tell them that they haven't encountered any problems though, but they will patrol the entire area because their master has instructed them. When the duo learns that Jingi and Yukito are on their way to Ebara, they suddenly get nervous and bid them goodbye, saying that they will meet again after the patrolling is over. When Yukito asks if they won't visit Ebara with them, they hesitantly tell him that they can't because things between Ayaka security and their master are not going well. Soon they reach Ibuki's place and greet him, saying that they have come to deliver a lost item. Ibuki tells them to report it to his assistant Makita, and before leaving he asks Yukito to take care of himself, because things might get rough today. After some time, they tell Makita about upsetting Ebara because they were partying by the grave. So Makita reassures him that on Ayaka Island, they sent their dead with a smile, but it depends on how they died, and it's still tough for Ebara. When Yukito asks what happened to her parents, Makita replies that a few years ago, a fire-era Mitama grew big enough to burn a house down. Ibuki took care of it, but he couldn't save everyone. Mitama tells him that people's lives and the actions of Mitama are determined by the flow of energy, so it's important to accept everything with a smile. But a lot of people are not willing to accept the nature of the Ayaka Island, so they vent their frustration by killing the Aramitami. Sensing that the atmosphere is turning dark with their conversation, Jingi tries to lighten up the mood for Yukito. Soon Makita realizes that he really did burden Yukito with his thoughts, and he apologizes to him. When Yukito gives the keychain to Makita, he asks him to deliver it to Ebara himself. Soon Ebara comes to the shop and Yukito gives the keys to her. Makita asks her to say thanks to Yukito, and she hesitantly thanks him, saying that she would have been in trouble without these keys. Yukito tells her that he apologized to her parents too for partying on their death anniversary. Suddenly the ground starts shaking again, and Jinji announces that this time is an Ayamatami with a lot of fire energy, and Ebara soon runs out. Makita worriedly tells them that Ebara acts recklessly whenever a fire Matami shows up. Hearing this, Jingi and Yukito run out to look out for Ebara. As the fire spreads rapidly, consuming everything in its path, Jingi swiftly unleashes a torrent of water magic, extinguishing flames and saving a girl caught in the chaos. His focus sharpens as he gestures to Yukito, urging him silently to search for Ebara amidst the smoke and destruction. The police quickly begin to take control of the chaotic scene, pushing back the crowd and securing the area. Meanwhile, Ebara runs at full speed, chanting her spells with determination, while Yukito follows closely behind her. Her focus is razor-sharp as she spots an Aramitami attacking two terrified kids. Without hesitation, she leaps in front of the creature, shielding the children from harm. She signals them to run away as fast as they can. Wasting no time, Ebara charges at the Aramitami, her spells ready. But before she can strike, the Mitami counters with a fiery blast that hits her, forcing her to stumble back. Pain sears through her, but she refuses to give up. Chanting another spell, she manages to dodge the next attack. In that moment, memories of her parents' last moments flash through her mind. She sees the fire Mitami that took their lives, and an overwhelming rage builds within her. Fueled by anger and grief, she lunges at the Mitami with everything she has, unleashing a fierce attack. The Aramitami retaliates with a massive fireball, aimed directly at her. Just as it seems unavoidable, Yukito steps in, creating a protective shield around her. Yukito immediately asks Ebara if she was doing fine, but suddenly Mitami starts attacking Yukito's water barrier. He uses his chance to break open the water spouts to extinguish the fire of the Aramitami, but after some time, the ugly monster uses more fire to take control over Yukito's weak water spells. Soon Yako and Chetaro run towards them asking if they are fine, but soon a fire Mitami turns berserk and starts swirling a ring of fire around Yukito's barrier. Yukito begs the others to run away, but Ebara is not running anywhere because she knows if she escapes, the Mitami will come after them and the townspeople will be caught in the crossfire. Ebara leaps into the air with all her strength, slamming her iron fist into the Aramitami's face. The force of her attack echoes across the battlefield, stunning the demon momentarily. She quickly assesses the chaos around her and calls to the others, urging them to back her up and stay clear of the spreading flames. She knows she can't afford to be caught off guard. Yukito steps forward, channeling his charm to lend Ibara the strength she needs. A surge of energy flows through him, and soon, a powerful wave of water crashes over the Matami, attempting to weaken it. But the demon shakes off the attack and rises to its feet, roaring with renewed fury. Realizing they need more power, Yukito turns to Yako and Chitaro, urging them to combine their strength with his. However, the two insist on fighting alongside Yukito and Ibara instead, determined to face the demon directly. Their stubbornness frustrates Yukito, but there's no time to argue as the battle rages on. Suddenly, flames shoot toward them, fierce and relentless. Yako and Chitaro react swiftly, using their fan and stick to deflect the fiery attack. They send the flames hurtling back toward the Matami, momentarily stalling its advance. Seizing the opportunity, Yukito summons another wave of water, drenching the demon again and keeping the fire at bay. Ibara doesn't hesitate. She charges forward and delivers another crushing blow to the Matami's head, her iron fists striking with relentless power. For a moment, it seems like they've won, but the Matami roar once more and begins retreating, trying to escape their relentless assault. The group refuses to let it flee, so they chase after the Matami, their determination unwavering. They coordinate their attacks, combining their unique abilities into a collective surge of energy. Their combined power overwhelms the Matami, finally pacifying the raging demon. As the flames die down and the battlefield grows quiet, the group stands together, victorious. Their teamwork and unyielding resolve have carried them through, proving that their strength lies in unity. Just when they think that the danger is over, three Matamis attack the city at the same time. Ibara asks them to run away, but Yukito uses his water spell to attack the Matami, but he ends up straining himself. The Meisevi doesn't get affected at all, so Ibara asks them to escape after distracting the Matami because there is no way they can handle three powerful Matamis by themselves. But before they can escape, the Matami block their exit and traps them in its range of fire barrier. However, Kurama comes to their rescue and pacifies the Matami, while Ibuki uses his gun to kill another. Suddenly, a third Matami tries to attack them, but before Kurama can pacify it, Ibuki shoots it with his gun. Kurama gives Ibuki a dangerous look, and Yukito can already sense the tension between them. The Matami turns into something dangerous, and Ibuki gets ready to use his black magic. But Kurama stops him, saying that it's illegal. Ibuki asks him to piss off and not interfere in his job, and tells him that since they were too weak, they were not able to save their master. Kurama uses his spell to break the Matami, but Ibuki shoots it and runs towards it to consume it. But Kurama uses his magic to stop him, saying that he will lose his ability to turn back into human. But Ibuki is not ready to listen to him. Soon they both get into a fight in order to protect each other, and Yukito realizes that if they keep fighting like this, then the Matami will wake up again. But suddenly Jinji comes like a hero and pacifies the Matami Eye and asks the other two to dump their heads in water to reflect on their actions. Hearing this, they both eat off each other's necks and apologize to their students for acting like kids. Before leaving, Kurama warns Ibuki that their dead master would never want him to engage in black magic. Hearing this, Ibuki replies that he doesn't care about what a dead man thinks, so he will use this power to erase his past regrets. In the evening, they all gather at the Marine Liner's railway station to head home. But Kurama has not returned yet. Janie, who is drunk, casually jokes around, saying that maybe Kurama is celebrating the pacification of Matami with the mayor. Yako and Shitaro reply that they are returning to the shrine because their master Kurama instructed them, and Yukito also asks Jingi to head home. They thank Ibara for seeing them off, and Jingi casually remarks that they should thank him for saving their skins from the fire Matami today, because without him they would have pissed their pants. Yukito replies that he is never there when they need him, but shows up in the end to steal the show. Then Yukito thanks Ibara and tells her that she had been very strong today, especially when she didn't run away and faced the Matami head-on. He tells Ibara that he looks forward to working with her again, if they get a chance. Ibara shyly gives him his social media ID, and Jingi immediately nudges Yukito to act cool and give his contact information too, but Yukito keeps fumbling like a teenager lost in his tracks. When Yako and Shitaro ask if they both will only exchange their contacts, Ibara gives them her ID too, but they get flustered. They soon exchange their contact information and promise to be friends together. Mako tells Yukito that in the past, when Yukito's father was alive, Jingi, young Yukito, Momoko, Kurama, and Ibuki used to live together in the same home. But Kabuto and his student Kurama and Ibuki used to go for Aramatemi hunts and come home injured, while Yukito and Jinji used to stay at home with Momoko. That was the time when Ibuki and Kurama were like sworn brothers, always attached to the hips. Jinji, as usual, was a slacker and used to get kicked on his ass for not practicing with the other two by Master Makoto. One day, Ibuki asked if he and Kurama can go together for the dragon pacifying ritual, and he promised to back Kurama, but Makoto declined, saying that Kurama is still not ready for this big mission. Makoto tells them that they still need to practice and brush up their skills so they can preside over the ritual in a few years with the help of Jinji. Jinji, the slacker, remarks why he has to do the ritual every year to pacify the dragon so it doesn't erupt. Makoto tells him that the fire dragon misses the water dragon after it has disappeared and that makes him lash out. So all they can do to settle him down by sealing him inside the volcano. He asked them to watch him closely this year so they could follow the same process for the next year. They used to spend their days having fun in Yukido's childhood home, having shaved ice, eating fish curry, and helping young Yukido grow. Makoto raised them with so much love. He used to take them for trips, hot water baths, and exciting snow festivals. One day when Makoto was putting Yukido to sleep, a huge earthquake struck the island with lightning and thunder. The weather turned extremely disastrous and Makoto went out of the house to inspect. He told Kurama and Ibuki that he was going to the mainland to find the ritual weapon that will be used to pacify the fire dragon. Ibuki agreed to take control of everything with Kurama until Makoto returned. Soon Kurama and Ibuki went around inspecting strange happenings on the island, and they found that the fourth island's influence was spreading everywhere, causing Minimus to behave strangely all over the island. Momoko asked them to stay in the house until their master returns, but the duo denied the offer, saying that the quake has weakened the seal of Fourth Island. Another quake hits the island and Yukio turns pale in fear, and Kurama tells them that these are the foreshocks, and if the actual eruption occurs, then it will destroy all the Ayaka Islands. He informs Momoko that the fire dragon originally grew rough to dry up the lake and the water dragon in it. Ibuki adds that it was because they have been keeping it trapped inside a barrier, and now he has become a bomb which is ready to explode anytime. Their only choice is to conduct the dragon pacifying ritual while their master is gone. While they are discussing their plans, a man in a small truck asked Ibuki and Kurama to ask Momoko and the kids to evacuate and reach the harbors quickly, where the mayor will bring a big boat to help them escape. They both asked Jinji to stay with Momoko and Yukido, and then they flew away to the fourth island. The island was fully covered with lava and almost everything was destroyed. They both made up their mind to do the pacifying ritual without their master, and soon flames of blue light erupted from the earth's depths. Their ritual was almost weakening the fire dragon's powers, but suddenly a massive volcano erupted and the fire dragon emerged from the crater of the mountains. The dragon started lashing everywhere, causing more destruction and chaos. The duo realized that this dragon was still trapped by the seal, so they decided to complete the ritual and seal it completely. The barrier was made by their ancestors and was still strong enough to hold the dragon for some time, so they started pouring more power into it so it wouldn't break away. Protecting the island was Ibuki and Kuruma's last hope, and they continued to pour more energy in the barrier using the spells, while the dragon growled and lashed in anger. Suddenly, Ibuki dropped to the ground because he was very exhausted, but he asked Kuruma to continue sealing the dragon without worrying about him. However, soon enough, the dragon manages to break off the seal of the shrine and gets ready to aim its fire on Ibuki. But before the fire could reach Ibuki, Kuruma comes in between and saves him from getting burnt. Ibuki looked at him in both anger and surprise, asking why the hell did he stop sealing the dragon to save him. But suddenly they saw Master Makoto emerging from the flames, ruthlessly fighting the dragon to pacify it. The massive snout of the dragon that almost reached the skies dangerously loomed over them. Makoto apologized for coming late and got ready to perform the ritual again. He sets the ritual tool in the ground and chants his mantras, and soon the dragon is caught in chains. Makoto told the boys that if they don't seal the dragon, it will screw them because it's too late to stop the eruption, and they also need to keep Ayaka Islands from being destroyed. When the boys asked if they would be able to do that, Makoto replied that it is possible if he risked his life. Ibuki offered to accompany Makoto, but Makoto asked Kuruma to take Ibuki away and run, and Kurama did as he was asked reluctantly. With much difficulty, Kuruma drops Ibuki on the ground, and an angry Ibuki realizes that Kuruma is badly injured too. Then he looked around to see that the eruption had become more massive, and he yelled in anger and helplessness. The battle of sealing the dragon was massive, and the sky blazed red all night long. The next morning, when people looked around, it seemed like nothing had happened. But in just one night, Ayaka had suffered terrible damage. When Kuruma and Ibuki walked towards the crater to look for their master, they found him sitting there. But when they looked closely, they realized that he was dead, yet he was smiling. Ibuki fell on the ground, desperately wishing for their master to come back, but he was long gone in the battle last night. After that, both Kuruma and Ibuki used to argue a lot over their future as lay masters, and they finally parted ways. Several years later, Ibuki returned after learning some dangerous spells, and now they both have strained relationships. After Makoto finishes the story, Yukito looks in the direction of Jingi and realizes that on that dangerous night, it was Jingi who saved him and calmed him down. One afternoon, while taking a nap, Yukito realizes that he is not getting nightmares ever since he has moved to this island. Then he suddenly wakes up, choking and coughing, and Jingi immediately sits beside him, asking if he is okay. When Jingi looks into Yukito's eyes, he sees that they have turned a light shade of blue, but before he can ask something, Yukito's cell phone pings with a message. Yukito checks his phone to see that his friends have made a group chat, planning to hang out on Sunday. Jingi peeks from behind and happily asks if Yukito is going to the Kaisen festival on Sunday. Then Jingi goes inside and brings a customary mask and gives it to Yukito, saying that people wear this in the festival. Then he tells him that this mask used was Master Makoto's. On Sunday, the Jingi and Yukito reach the festival grounds, and Yukito is excited to see a huge gathering. Jingi's friends soon find him and ask him to accompany them to the stall, but Jingi decides to stick with Yukito and teases him that he will use his money and they will have fun together. But suddenly they see Ebara dressed in a pretty kimono, and Yukito asks her to accompany him to find Chitaro and Yako, while Jingi keeps looking at them like he is a stray dog. Jingi takes Yukito to the other side and asks her to compliment Ebara, but as soon as Yukito turns around and compliments her, Ebara doesn't reply, but she sends him a text message saying thank you. Soon they start strolling around looking at various stalls, and Jingi keeps asking him to buy something. Suddenly, Yukito hears Yako and Chitaro scolding their master Kuruma because he sold all their charms as freebies to everyone. They enter the hut and they all start sorting the charms while Jingi, as usual, is slacking away. Suddenly, Kuruma notices Yukito's mask and tells him that seeing it brings back old memories of their master. Hearing this, Yukito asks why do people wear masks to the Kaisen festival, so Kuruma replies that back in the days, even non-humans used to participate in this festival, and they were gods and monsters. So masks are a reason to forget who one is and enjoy the festival. After some time, when the charms sorting is done, Kurama asks the kids to enjoy the festival while he and Jingi will run the shop. Jingi revolts, saying that he has to take care of the kids and go with them as their guardian, but Kurama asks him to stop spawning off from his students. They leave the shop, chit-chatting and joking with each other when Yukito feels a strange headache and he sits on the ground holding his head. When Ayara asks if he is okay, he replies that he suddenly feels dizzy, but he is okay. To lighten up the mood, Yukito asks the kids to eat something and then play games. Soon they start enjoying delicious food and all sorts of games in the festival. On the other hand, Jingi is walking around like a loner, cursing Kurama for making him work like a donkey. Soon he sees the four kids having fun together and decides to sponge off them. But he decides to not to do that to poor kids and leaves. Soon Chitaro notices that Ibara has got blisters from wearing the wooden slippers and asks if he should bring bad aids for her. Yukito suggests taking a break for some time, but suddenly Momoko approaches them asking what they are doing. When she learns that Ibara is having difficulty in walking, she bandages it for her and asks her to not underestimate a blister because they will ruin her pretty feet. Then she looks at a smiling Yukito and tells him that his father used to smile like him when he used to come to the festival and create ruckus with his mayor friend. Soon, Ibara gets a call from Ibuki, who asks her to pass the phone to Yukito. As soon as Yukito takes the call, he asks if Ibara is enjoying herself, and Yukito replies that she is, so Ibuki smiles, relieved on the other side. But suddenly, Yukito gets another attack and he falls on the floor, and soon his eyes turn blue. Yukito realizes that this is just like when he lost control over his power when he was a kid. Fearing that he will hurt everyone, Yukito runs away from the festival to the deep forests. On the other hand, Kurama notices that the water in the pond is a bit unsteady, and soon he sees Yukito run in the forest. Soon Yukito stops under a tree, but he gets scared when he sees that his shadow has turned into the shape of a dragon. He tries to get his power into control and calm himself, but the power keeps expanding and emanating out of his body. He falls on the floor helplessly, but suddenly he remembers how Jingi helped him to calm down and he follows his method. Soon he manages to control himself, and suddenly he sees a glowing masked man who praises him and tells him that he is ready to become the lay master. On his way back, Yukito is thinking about the masked man, and then he meets Jingi. He thanks him for helping him learn to control his powers. But suddenly a volcano erupts and everyone looks at it in fear. The ground starts shaking and everyone panics, realizing that it's similar to how it happened 10 years ago. The mayor asks everyone to calm down and informs them about the current situation, and he asks them to head to the middle of the plaza. He asks Momoko to ask the islanders to go home and prepare for evacuation. On the other hand, Jimmy smiles while looking at the volcano because he is reminded of the past times. But when he sees a panicked Yukito, he asks if Yukito likes or hates the island. At first, Yukito thinks that he has gone nuts, but he replies that he likes it because it's a nice place and he has made friends here. Hearing this, Jingi smiles and replies that he likes the island too, and Sumi disappears. The next morning, the aftershocks hit the island again while Yukito keeps getting flashes of the dragon eye. Momoko asks if he is doing alright and then gives him a safety bag, asking him to evacuate. When Yukito asks if she will not evacuate, Momoko replies that she is in the disaster prevention committee, so she has to wait until everyone has evacuated. Besides, Jingi can be home any minute. Hearing this, Yukito replies that he too will wait for Jingi and help others in the meantime. Soon Yukito starts helping Momoko in evacuation, and she asks him to keep an eye on the elderly as they get on the boat. After some time, Kurama visits the harbor and asks Momoko if he can take Yukito with him, and she agrees. He takes Yukito to an isolated place and tells him that he wants to tell something about his birth. His students get a little worried and ask if they should leave Yukito and him alone. Kurama asks them to stay because they also need to know the truth. Then he tells them that the disaster currently affecting Ayaka Island is caused by the fire dragon who lives here. Its power is running out of control because the power of its rival water dragon has vanished, and that has disturbed ley energy harmony on the island. So Makoto's students have been tasked with using their power to help the people of the island and restore the balance of water. He explains that 15 years ago, the water dragon's power got lost significantly, and it was Master Makoto who handled the situation. But he was attempting to restore the water dragon's power using a certain ritual, and he managed to extract the weakened water dragon from the ley energy, but that gave birth to an infant Yukito in the form of water energy. By doing this, the water dragon could gain its former strength and return to ley energy once more, and the mysterious water strength and Yukito's talent is all because he was born during that ritual. And all of this means that Yukito is the embodiment of the water dragon, and soon Kurama confirms his suspicions with an experiment. But for Yukito to reclaim his true form and bring harmony to the island, he would have to unleash his energy that has been trapped for 15 years. He requests Yukito to grow up healthy and strong, continue to train, and someday he will become the true version of himself. He then tells the three that he will go to the fourth island to do what Master Makoto did years back, and informs them that Jingi will take care of them. Yukito is against running again and wants to help Kurama and others to tame the dragons, but Chitaro tells him that they are not trained enough and will be weaklings. But suddenly they realize that Kurama is actually on his way to sacrifice himself just like Makoto did, so they start panicking. But Yato and Chitaro are still against the idea of following their master and causing more trouble. But suddenly Ibara appears and tells them that she agrees with Yukito. They need to go help their masters and save their lives. On the other hand, Kurama reaches the fourth island's dragon shrine and starts chanting a long prayer to seal the dragon. Suddenly Ibuki appears behind him, but Kurama asks him to stay away and watch. Ibuki replies that he can defeat the dragon alone and he doesn't need Kurama's help. Soon nostalgia hits them and they get reminded of their master's place of death, but soon they start fighting again. Suddenly the ground beneath them rocks again and the fire dragon emerges from the volcanic opening. Ibuki wastes no time and quickly unleashes his black magic energy, and despite Kurama asking him to not do that, he leaps towards the dragon. Kurama uses his energy to remove Ibuki from the dragon's mouth and declares that he will deal with it alone. Soon he flies towards the raging dragon, but Ibuki saves him. They both fly together in the air, combine their energies, and attack the dragon with it. But suddenly the dragon pounces on Ibuki and smashes him against the mountain. Kurama quickly picks Ibuki, and they see that the dragon has almost turned into an Aramatami. Kurama tries to take Ibuki away, but the Aramatami dragon unleashes a huge ball of fire and cursed energy, but surprisingly Yukito blocks it. Kurama and Ibuki realize that their students have reached the fourth island to help them. Jingi learned about Yukito's secret, and they both were little kids. One day when he was helping Yukito walk, but as soon as baby Yukito held his finger, a gust of water emerged out of nowhere and Jingi started drowning in it. But thankfully Master Makoto broke the spell and told the confused Jingi that Yukito is a bit special because his water energy is very strong. Jingi and Yukito were compatible because Jingi's water energy is 2 on the strong side, but he asked Jingi to not tell Kuruma and Ibuki. Jingi used to have secret discussions with Makoto over Yukito's future. One day he asked if Yukito will turn into a water dragon or would he be able to see him in the future. Makoto replied that he will be stable until he turns Ibuki and Kurama's age. But after that, he would have to undergo a ritual to turn into a water dragon. But until then, he asked Jingi to watch over Yukito. But when Makoto died, Yukito was sent to the orphanage in the mainland, and according to Makoto's wish, he was to break ties with all the people on the island until he is 15 years old. Momoko didn't want to tear a young Yukito away from his father's family, but Jingi asked them to follow his master's last wishes. Soon Jingi sadly bid Yukito goodbye and continued to believe in his master's decision. But since Makoto was dead, Ibuki and Kurama were injured, he started to study to become a good lay master, and he soon learned the spell of recovering the water dragon, but the one who will say the spell will die. Coming back to the present where Yukito and his friends have come to help their masters, Kurama yells at them, asking them to stop acting foolish, but Yukito is not ready to budge, and he declares that they are students of Makoto's school too. Ibuki realizes that there is no use arguing with these headstrong students, so he asks all of them to back them with their powers. He orders Ibara to lead the kids, and finally Kurama also agrees to let the kids help, but he asks them to save themselves first. Ibara orders Yako and Chitaro to block as many attacks as they can, and she orders Yukito to help her keep the dragon in place. Soon Kurama and Ibuki jump into the battleground again, and their students are ready to back them. The Aramitami dragon attacks them, but Ibuki quickly leaps in the air to attack its snout, while Kurama helps him with his powerful magical spells. Seeing their chance, Yukito uses his water energy and Ibara uses her lightning spells to keep the dragon in place. Yukito's powerful spell creates a water dragon that traps the fire Aramitami, and Ibuki uses this chance to punch the dragon with his black magic-infused arm. The kids are delighted to see their masters fighting together, and there is a hope they will be able to defeat the massive fire dragon. The fight continues for some time, and they all are giving their best with Yukito's massive water energy. But Kurama can sense that Yukito is losing his breath, so he uses Makoto's spell to chain the dragon. However, the dragon has turned into a Mitami, and soon it breaks the chains. So Ibuki turns into a demon-like human and attacks the dragon, but nothing seems to work on the dragon, so Kurama tells the kids that he will send them away while he still has power. But Yukito begs Kurama to let him help him and Ibuki, and falls on the floor. Suddenly Jinji appears from behind him and jokes with Yukito, saying that it looks like he will cry any moment. He reassures Yukito that he is here to protect him. It turns out that Jinji had learned from Makoto's notes that a long time ago one of the dragons protecting the island grew weak and the other went on rampage. The ley energy was disrupted and the flames eliminated fertile fields, leaving no place to support life. But one day an old hermit came, and in exchange of his own life he restored the water dragon that was on the verge of disappearing, and soon the water dragon established harmony with the fire dragon. But years have passed and the two dragons have fallen out of harmony once again. So Makoto wrote the spell in his own way to restore its power. Makoto had planned on raising the water dragon as a human and then restore its power by giving his own life like the hermit once did. So Jinji took the responsibility on himself because he doesn't have relatives and nor does he have many attachments. When Jinji went to take Yukito from the school, he was very nervous at first, but later he realized that the guys had grown up without friends and would probably die a lonely death. But seeing him smile made Jinji very happy. So dying for him will also make him happy, and he had been strengthening his resolve, and now the time has come. Yukito asks Jinji where did he disappear, and he replies that he needed some time to steal his resolve even more. Jinji asks Yukito if he wishes to get his water dragon powers back, and Yukito replies that he really wants to save the people of the island, his friends, and the people he loves. Hearing this, Jinji unleashes his powerful water energy, and Kurama tries stopping him because he knows what Jinji is up to. However, soon Yukito finds himself in a strange place with Jinji, and the guy informs him that they are inside the ley energy to restore the water dragon's lost power. He explains that in order to do that, a great ley master has to act as conductor to connect the water dragon's soul to the ley energy. When Yukito looks at him in confusion, he explains that he and Yukito have great compatibility and asks Yukito to jump down. But suddenly Yukito asks what he means by acting the conduct for him. Suddenly things start becoming clear to him, and he asks Jinji what the hell is he up to, and Jinji replies that he will give his life to Yukito, and soon he takes his hand and jumps in the water. Inside the water, Yukito desperately tries to save Jinji, but the guy holds Yukito's hand and transfers his soul to his body. On the battleground, everyone worriedly looks at Jinji as he collapses on the ground, and a huge wave of water erupts around Yukito. Suddenly, Yukito transforms into a blue-colored dragon with a tail of flowing water and comes face to face with the fire dragon. Yukito gets flashbacks of his cheerful memories with Jinji when he came to the island with him. One day, he and Momoko found out that Jinji had grilled the only fish that was supposed to be cooked for dinner, and he had it with his booze. When Momoko asked him to grow into a respectable adult, Jinji replied that he will live life the way he wants until the day he dies. That really meant that he knew that he would die for sure very soon, so he wanted to enjoy his life. In the present, Yukito has turned into a brutal water dragon who is involved in a fierce fight with the fire dragon, both pushing and pulling each other. Kurama makes a barrier around others so they don't get caught in the crossfire and tells everyone that both the dragons are trying to maintain harmony of ley energy. Ibuki asks Kuruma if Yukito will be able to come back from this, and he replies that he doesn't know because they never knew what kind of spell their master casted on Yukito. So once the harmony is restored, then only they will get to know if Yukito can turn into a human or not. Soon, the two dragons entangle with each other, and the Aramatami eye of the fire dragon closes, and the corruption in his body slowly leaves it. On the side, Kurama explains that Yukito is reestablishing its circulation with the fire dragon. Soon, the Matami start coming out from the ground, and suddenly, the two dragons fall back in the crater. Suddenly, Ibara sees Yukito standing next to a dead Jinji, asking him to wake up or else he will get cold sleeping in the open air. Kurama puts a hand on his soldier, telling him the bad news of Jinji passing away, and Yukito yells his name in pain. Soon everything starts getting back to normal, and Momoko gets the news of Jinji's death. Yukito, on the other hand, has shut himself, not participating in the funeral service. His friends visited his funeral service, recalling the sweet memories they made together and cursing him for not telling about his plan. The others are also upset about the sudden demise of Jinji, wondering if they will ever see him again. Meanwhile, the mayor goes to Jinji's room to reminisce about the memories they made together. He talks to his picture, saying that he was a genuine person without any pretentiousness. He was always a willful child, and as a guardian, he had a hard yet fun time dealing with him. But he starts crying, saying that he shouldn't have left him alone so early. On the other hand, Kurama visits a distressed Ibuki, and Ibuki asks him if he knew about Yukito's secret of being a water dragon. Kurama replies that he only got to know about that yesterday, so Jinji asks how the hell did Jinji know about it, and Kurama shows him Makoto's diary, which was found in Jinji's room. The notes are the ones that describe the spell cast by the ancient lay master. Makoto probably also wanted to use that spell, but Jinji had been training since their master's death to help Yukito one day, and to save the island he sacrificed himself. When Ibuki angrily asks why Jinji did not tell them, Kurama replies that Jinji wanted to save them all, so he didn't tell them anything. Jinji knew that someone had to sacrifice themselves to awaken the water dragon, so he casted the spell, and he was a great lay master, just like their master Makoto. Hearing this, Ibuki lashes out at Kurama, saying that he doesn't care about anyone as long as harmony of the island is restored. Kurama doesn't hold himself back this time, and angrily replies that Ibuki knows nothing about him, and even back then he had no choice but to leave their master. Now too, as the eldest, he is embarrassed because Jinji had to sacrifice his life instead of him. Ibuki seethes in anger, saying that he went to black magic because he wanted to use all the power to defeat the darn Aramatami and save everyone. Soon they both start fighting with each other violently, but their students come running, asking them to stop behaving like kids. Suddenly, Ibuki starts sobbing, saying that they are losers who couldn't even save their own friends. After a while, Momoko knocks on Yukito's door and asks if he is doing okay, and Yukito starts blaming himself for the death of Jinji. He tells her that because he was weak, Jinji had to give up his life for him. Momoko hugs him and replies that she doesn't know much about lay mastery, but she knows Jinji very well. If Jinji was willing to give his life to do something, then it must have been the only way to do that, so Yukito must not blame himself. Momoko chuckles at Jinji's bravery, saying that he was someone who lived a wild life, but he really took after his master Makoto. Then she asks Yukito to see Jinji for the last time, otherwise he will be sad without him. After some time, Yukito follows a bunch of Matamis to Jinji's body, where he sees the mayor. The mayor thanks him for saving the island, but Yukito says that all the credit goes to Jinji. The mayor sheds tears, saying that he wanted to send Jinji and Makoto off with a smile, but is difficult for him, and the mayor leaves, leaving Yukito alone with Jinji. Yukito walks over to Jinji and tells him that he was very selfish to die alone and leave everyone behind, and now they can't live without him. Yukito angrily lashes out at him, but suddenly he is teleported to the Lee stream of energy again. There he sees Jinji, calling out his name, asking him to help him because he is being swept away. He asks him to use his water dragon call tactics to save him, but Yukito doesn't know what the hell he should do, and soon he is teleported back to the room. When Momoko and the mayor come running, asking what happened, he replies that it is still possible to save Jinji because his soul is still stuck in the lay energy, and he runs off, transforming into a huge water dragon again. Ibuki and Kurama see Yukito running like a madman, so they follow him, wondering where he's going at this time. Meanwhile, Yukito turns into a water dragon again and travels to the fourth island and senses the Lee stream where he saw Jinji first. He drops himself in the crater of the volcano and soon finds himself in the stream of Lee energy again and starts looking for him. He resolves to bring Jinji home, even if it means dragging him by his collar, but suddenly a red bright energy hits him. When Yukito turns around, he sees a masked man and he asks who he is. Yukito suddenly asks if he is his dad, and he happily asks if he recognized him and removes his mask to reveal his face. Makoto tells his son that he was here all this time to keep the dragon in check until Yukito awakens and takes charge. When Yukito asks if he is still alive, Makoto replies that he couldn't beat a dragon in a head-to-head fight, so he died, but now he is a partial soul patiently handling the fire dragon within the ley energy. But since the water dragon is more important than him, he made sure Yukito doesn't come in close contact with the fire dragon. Yukito realizes that in order to weaken his connection with the fire dragon, his father raised him as a human on the mainland. But if all this chaos wouldn't have happened, then they would have continued living together. Then Makoto asks Yukito why he came to the ley stream, and Yukito quickly asks if he knows where Jingi is. Makoto replies that he saw him sticking to a stick some time back, which he made as a landmark a long time back, but seems like he got swept away. Yukito asks him to take him to his beloved Jingi so he can take him back. Hearing this, Makoto replies that since Yukito is the water dragon, he was waiting for him to grow and get used to the ley energy, but now since he is ready, he asks Yukito to follow him. They swim for some time, but Yukito keeps staying behind because the ley energy is a powerful stream and Yukito needs to catch up with his father. Makoto asks Yukito to not resist the stream, otherwise he will end up making Ayametamus, so he should join with the other lives flowing here and go with the flow. Soon Yukito uses his ley mastery skills and starts flowing freely, and Makoto is relieved that Jingi didn't end up teaching him rubbish after all. Then Yukito asks if Makoto considers him his son, and the old man replies that no matter what the origins of Yukito might be, but since he took him in, he will always be his father. On the other hand, Kurama is busy praying, and Ibuki asks his students what he is up to. The students reply that Yukito entered the light energy channel again, so their master is doing a ritual for his well-being. Ibuki replies that the river of life is a dangerous stream and simply being there makes someone lose their consciousness and not everyone can withstand it. Kurama opens his eyes and replies that he agrees with Ibuki, saying that even a seasoned captain can be lost in a sea storm. Ibuki says that Yukito transformed into a water dragon, so there is no way he doesn't understand the risks. Suddenly, many Aramidimists start appearing out of nowhere, and Kurama realizes that his call must be summoning unwanted energy from within the ley energy. Stating that Kuruma will be interrupted by these unwanted guests, Ibuki gets ready with his gun to fight them off, and the students get ready to back him. Meanwhile, Yukito and Makoto find a noisy green head, almost drowning in the ley energy stream, screaming Yukito's name and asking him to help him. Yukito holds him with his collar and lifts him up, and Jingi is relieved to see his brother again. Yukito looks at him with angry eyes, saying that after kicking up a storm all by himself, Jingi went to die alone without worrying about what everyone feels, especially how Yukito feels. Jingi pouts and asks what the hell was he supposed to do, if not to sacrifice himself. So Makoto punches his head and tells him that there was plenty that he could have done as his student. He tells Jingi that he didn't have to sacrifice himself to save an island, and that spell was only a measure for emergency. He explains that if Yukito wouldn't have turned into a dragon himself, then Jingi should have left the island to burn, because that's nature's method of dying and regenerating. Then Jingi asks Yukito how he will take him back, and Yukito replies that he thought he would be able to pull him and bring him out of the ley energy. But bringing back a dead is not an easy task. However, Makoto tells Yukito that he can do it by believing in his abilities. He reminds him that he was not absorbed by the ley energy stream because he didn't give up. Yukito asks Jingi if he wishes to return to his home, and Jingi replies that he still wishes to eat and drink tasty things, chat with his friends, take Yukito's money, and go fishing. Yukito sighs and asks if he can come up with better reasons than that, so Jingi asks him to shut up because there is nothing wrong in having fun. Yukito says that he was so caught up in getting here that he didn't know which way was the island, so he asks Makoto. Makoto replies that he broke his seal when he jumped inside the volcanic lake, and it was only because of that seal that he had an idea of where the island is. Hearing this, Jingi panics and they both start bickering with each other like long-lost brothers. Makoto asks them to chill because they will find their way back in 50 to 60 years, but suddenly Yukito senses something, so he takes Jingi's arm and follows the energy. As soon as Yukito gives a signal from inside, Kurama senses it from outside and tells everyone that he has found Yukito. Inside, Jingi tells Yukito that the others are trying to pull them out from the exit. Seeing them, Makoto tears up, realizing that Yukito and Jingi are still strong as brothers, and he hugs them, saying that they both worked really hard. Then he pushes them towards the exit, and Jingi tries to take Makoto with himself, but Makoto refuses, saying that he can't leave because he has lived here for a long time and he needs to keep the fire dragon company. Yukito asks Jingi to hold his hand, and he starts taking him against the stream of ley energy. Suddenly, Yukito sees the seal break again, and a hand emerges from there, pulling them both outside. It turns out that is Ibuki, who is trying his best to save them since he can't afford losing people close to him again. He manages to use his full force, but suddenly Ibuki's grip loosens on Yukito's hand and they both start dropping in the water again. Suddenly, Yukito sees a yellow ball and asks if he is the fire dragon, and the dragon answers with a yes. Yukito reassures the dragon that he will stay with him on the island and make sure that he is not alone, and the dragon replies that he will wait for him. Soon they see Ibuki's arm again, and he yells for Yukito's name and pulls him out. Yukito wakes up and looks around for Jingi, but he is not there with him. On the other hand, Jingi wakes up in his funeral room and scares the shit out of Momoko, just entering the room to serve his soul some drinks. When the old mayor enters the room, he falls on his butt, surprised that Jingi is alive and breathing. The old man loses his brain and starts yelling at his friend Makoto's portraits, saying that he has seen a ghost of Jingi, while Jingi takes the drink from Momoko and exclaims that he feels alive again. Meanwhile, Ibara keeps checking on happy Yukito if he is doing fine, saying that she won't be surprised until she checks every last bit of him. Yukito thanks his friends for staying with him all this time. Kurama and Ibuki seem to have got on good terms again, and Ibuki asks him to ask for his help, and they can fight together if hell loses on them again. The following morning, the mayor pulls Jingi out of the house, urging him to explain his survival to his friends. As soon as they see him, they rush to hug him tightly, unable to hold back tears of relief. Their emotions quickly shift to scolding him for causing such distress. The heartfelt reunion brings everyone a sense of closure and joy, marking a fresh start for their community. Life gradually returns to normal on Ayaka Island. Ibuki takes charge of the first island, showing signs of maturity thanks to Kurama's influence. He adopts his late master's old methods, demonstrating a newfound sense of responsibility. Yukito resumes his high school life, joining Ibara and Kurama's other two students. The sight of Yukito in his new uniform excites everyone, symbolizing his fresh beginning. Jingi, however, shows little interest in the celebrations, returning to his usual habit of drinking and enjoying life in his carefree way. As the days pass, the island thrives in its peaceful routine. Yatori makes a heartfelt decision to stay on Ayaka Island permanently, committing to a life in the place he now considers home. Each character finds their own path, shaped by their experiences and strengthened by their bonds. The quiet island, once disrupted by chaos and uncertainty, now basks in harmony. The community rebuilds with resilience, embracing both the past and the future. Ayaka Island stands as a symbol of hope and renewal, a place where life continues, strengthened by the trials his people have endured together.